Hi family, just as a heads up, in this episode we do talk about issues such as depression and molestation and forgiveness. I hope you enjoy the episode and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Welcome to episode 106 of season 1 of Curvy Confidence. I have pigtails today, so you can't tell me nothing. I am so excited about this episode. We have Jasmine Mathews as our guest, and I really wish I could just kind of skip all the other segments and go straight to the interview, because I really believe that it is going to heal somebody. It is going to push somebody forward in their life. Chains will be broken and people will be catapulted into their destiny from this conversation. Guys, she's a blessing. Just trust me. Y'all know how we started off? We start every episode off with prayer. No matter what your religious background is, no matter what you believe, everyone is welcome in this space. I do recognize Jesus Christ as the Lord of my life, and so I do want to just start with a quick prayer before we jump in. Father God, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for this interview today. I thank you for the lessons that this interview teaches us. I thank you for the divine light that is Jasmine Mathews. I thank you, God, that because you have sent her to be a teacher to us, we will now be able to continue the mission that you have set us here for. God, I pray for each and every soul that will watch or listen to this. God, I pray that you just intervene on their behalf, that you teach them the light that they are, God, and that you connect them with sisters that, like Jasmine and me, that can uplift them and move them forward. This we pray in your son Jesus' name. Amen. Hey family, you already know. Now it is time for Gem of the Week. This week I just want to talk about being a star. Like for real. I'm someone, I worked in casting, and what casting means for those that don't work in entertainment, it's the beautiful people that make dreams come true, literally. Like they hire actors for theater, television, film. And so I worked as a casting associate for about 4 years, and became really good at seeing the star in other people. But I've always been able to do that. I've always been able to be like, wow, he or she is really special. Where that became a problem is that I became unable to see the star in me. I was so able to see the star and this person and that person that I forgot that I was one too. And because I had forgotten that I was one too, I began to compare myself to their star. I began to compare my light to their light. And I'm gonna keep it really transparent with y'all. Because I forgot my light, I began to try to adopt other people's light. And I ain't joking. What I mean by that is I began to adopt other people's personalities. I'm so serious. If I saw that someone had a lot of friends because they were really, really funny, then I would try to amp up my funny. If I saw that somebody was getting opportunities because they were very social and dressed well, I would go buy a whole new wardrobe, right? Nothing that I did was good enough for me. So I became someone else. I put mask on top of mask on top of mask on top of mask till I was not able to see who I was. And a lot of that had to do with the hurt, the trauma, and the bitterness that I was carrying. And that is why I'm so excited to get into the interview a little later, because we unpack what that means. And Jasmine gives us a system, she gives us a plan to be able to get to the other side of it. But before we go into that, I want to just offer to you and challenge you to begin to look for the star in you. No more just looking at other people. No more just looking and recognizing that they are a star. So are you. You're a bright light, and we have to embrace it. We have to move with it. We have to not be afraid of it, and begin to operate like the star that we are. All right, y'all, it's time for the sex tip of the week. Ow, 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 ow. This sex tip of the week is a little weird, and I feel like some of my sex tips are a little weird, but they're gonna bless you. I promise you. This sex tip of the week has to do with the bottoms of our feet. And this is for ladies, and this is for gentlemen. One of the most sensitive parts of our body is the bottom of our feet. And I'm not about to show you the bottom of my foot, because if my foot is dirty, I'm gonna be so embarrassed, right? But imagine this is my foot, right? My hand is my foot. Towards the middle of my hand there's a spot, like this is the heel of my foot, and then there's like the arch of my foot, I guess. So that little space between the arch and the heel is highly sensitive. And when you take the tips of your fingers and you rub against that spot and rub all throughout the arches on the side of the feet, you become stimulated. And for the ladies, the juices flow. For the men, the mountain rises, right? Try it on your significant other. Literally take the tips of your finger, and you can't, it's not something, because it's sensitive. So you can't go in there and be pressing all hard now. You have to literally take the tips of your fingers and just rub in that spot. And you will have a very good afternoon, a very good morning, a very good evening, whatever your preference is. Promise you. I am so sorry to all my family members that watch this. I'm like, I had no idea. Well, I'm 26, guys. This is the moment that you have been waiting for, the interview. Jasmine Mathews, I just want to start with saying she's a light. And I don't even know if that can like do it justice, like do her justice. She is everything. Like, she's the sun, literally. She is an actor, and she'll tell you where to catch her on. I'm the proud sister, sweet, better than the Heathers. Okay. She is an activist. She's a writer. She's a producer. She's a sister, daughter. She is everything, and you will see why I have been singing her praises literally for the last 2 episodes. But you will see why I am so honored to be her sister. Here is the interview. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Hello, gorgeous lady.
Hello, people.
I am so excited. I am so excited about this episode that I was talking about in the last episode. I was like, y'all, you just have to wait. Like, my sister is coming. So I did briefly tell them who you are. Please let the people know who you are and what light you bring to this world, which is so much.
Oh, girl, thank you. First of all, hi, everybody. I'm so honored and grateful to be here. Thank you, Brittany, for having me. I love you, sister. I'm so proud of you. My name is Jasmine Mathews. Honestly, I came here to help people heal. And because I came here to do that, I had to learn how to heal for my own stuff. So I've been through quite a bit, which we'll get into today. I'm an actress. I am a writer. I'm becoming a producer.
Hey.
I just, okay, have my hands in a lot. And I just want to tell stories that allow people to see what healing looks like, because we weren't taught that. But I am an avid, dedicated, just being of God. That is what I seek every day, all day.
It's so funny you said that, because in the last episode when I was talking about you, I said she is the embodiment of divinity. And I said, but it came, I told them, I said, but it came with a cost.
It did.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what that cost was and what that cost may have looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can get into it. My childhood wasn't the best, and I had to go from a place of being a victim of my childhood to being a victor of my childhood.
Girl, that's good.
Okay. Hello. So, you know, there's a spiritual side of it. You can say, well, before you came into this universe, you are a co-creator with God, and so you agree to what you would step into. There is that side, but you can say that, right? But it don't feel good when you've been molested by your father. How would I have chosen that for myself, right? So, long story short, my childhood, I came from a two-parent household, but my mom, she was becoming a doctor, so she wasn't always around. She wasn't present in the home. And my father, I would describe him as a super predator slash manipulator. Like, if you were to think about the R. Kelly documentary that came up, a lot of that was my father. But I did not know that. And I was around him 24/7 and his family 24/7. So I was molested by my father from the time, I say 3, but I remember it when I was in diapers. Up until the time that I was 10 years old when I got my first cycle. He stopped after that, which is interesting in and of itself. But I didn't know that that was wrong. I thought the love that I was receiving from my father was everything. I was a daddy's girl. I did everything that my father wanted, just so that I could see him happy. And it wasn't until I was about 14, 15 when I realized that that was not something that fathers should do with their children or their daughters. And I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know how to voice that. And I attempted at 15 years old. My mom didn't know what was going on with me, and she just thought it was, hormones and me acting out. But so she didn't know how to deal with me. I attempted to commit suicide when I was 15. I actually began to slit my wrists. And I thank God so much. Even though my mom didn't understand me and couldn't come from a place of understanding, God still spoke to her and she still listened. At the moment when I was cutting myself, she walked in the room and took the knife away from me. Didn't say a word. She just walked in, grabbed the knife, and left. And that was, I think, the first act of grace that I saw from God that I recognized. And that woke me up just enough to keep me hanging on. And from that point on, it was 3 years later, I told my mom that what my father had done. And when I told her, I laugh at it now, but it was traumatizing back then. I laugh at it now. But when I told her, she rolled over and she went back to sleep. She couldn't handle it, So I had a lot of resentment towards her as well. We're talking about bitterness today. I had a lot of resentment towards her as well. And so when I got to college, that's when I finally started healing consciously about what I had been through after hurting so many other people, because hurt people hurt people, So, hello, me too, girl. We've all been there, and that's the thing about life. There is, at one point you will be the victim, and the other point you will be the terrorizer. You go through that duality, you know what I mean? And so when you ask me what cost did it come at this journey that I'm on with God, it cost me my entire life. It did.
Wow. It cost you your entire life.
It cost me.
Wow. That is, wow. We have to chew on that.
Yeah.
Earlier you said you had resentment towards your mother and your father. You spoke a little bit about it, but what did that resentment start to do in your life? How did it start to show up in other areas?
Well, that's the thing. You can't compartmentalize emotions. Once you start to feel an emotion in one area of your life, it will show up in other areas. So that resentment I harbored for my mom, I couldn't have a relationship with her. When I was in college, I barely went home. And because of that, I couldn't get close to any females in college, which is hard because I went to Spelman, an all-girls school. So there was that component of it, but I also felt like I couldn't trust anyone, so I didn't let anyone in. I walked around as though I had it all together, and people saw through that, and they would call me out on it, and I would flip out on people. You know what I mean? Get very defensive. And then when it comes to my dad, I was in relationship after relationship after relationship, searching for that love again from him because I felt like I lost it when he walked out on me. So I find myself in relationship after relationship, trying to show these men, aka my dad, but trying to show these men that I was worthy of staying for. So I would bend over backwards, lose myself over and over and over again, just so they could stay and see me. Because if they saw me, then maybe I could see me. Then maybe my dad could see me. So, and you know, as women, when we open ourselves up sexually to someone, they imprint us. It's very hard to clear out that energy. And because I was doing it multiple times, it was like energy on top of energy on top of energy. I did not know who I was. So because I was harboring that resentment and that bitterness, and I didn't want to go through the healing yet, I was walking around lost, literally lost, and then I was found, like Amazing Grace says. How I was able to accomplish what I accomplished in college, I still have no idea. That's God.
You killed the game. You killed the game.
That's the thing. Even in the darkest of times, light is still always present, and and that is such a beautiful thing for me because I'm like, God, even when I was going through that, I still saw you. I still saw you. You know. So that's a little bit of how it showed up. And every guy that I was with, I ended up cheating on. Because at some point I knew you were going to leave me. You're going to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me.
So it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me.
Wow. And it's so funny because how that for me manifests in my life is I'm going to leave you before you can leave me. Like, I'm done. You know? It could be you left your towel on the floor. Nope. It got to go. Right? But if I'm triggered in any way, it's like, you can't get close to me. You can't, you know, it's done. You said, I had to chew on it a little bit. You said a part of you had to, you know, that you had, the cost was your life. Right. What parts of you had to die before you could realize what was at its root? What was at the root? Let's just talk about this real quick.
Yeah. What parts of me had to die in order for me to discover who I really was? You know, this is what I say. I had to go through what I had to go through. Because I had to, in order to discover who I am, I had to go through who I was not. I had to learn. I had to learn about who I was not just so I could sit here right now talking to you, align with who I really am. So what had to die? Everything that I am not, everything that I thought I was, it was essentially the ego, if you will, and I'm still, you know, we all still deal with that. But what had to die was the, and you know what? I wouldn't necessarily say die. I would say what I had to accept, what I had to learn to love and comfort. Because that part is still with me. You know what I mean? I might not necessarily identify with it, but it's a part of my journey, and so I have to embrace it. So what were those parts? It was the little girl in me that blamed herself for what her father did to her. It was the part of me that could not trust, the part of me that could barely even allow someone to hold her in a hug. You know what I mean? It was just the hurt and the it really boils down to the hurt. I could say the anger, I could say the bitterness, but when I was thinking about that, you know, what is bitterness? What is bitterness? I went to a dictionary, because I do that a lot, and it gave me two definitions. One, it talked about a lack of sweetness, right? So you lose the sweetness of life, meaning you lose the godness of life, the light in life, right? And the other definition I came up was anger and disappointment at being treated unfairly. So before bitterness can even come in, you have to have anger and you have to have disappointment. And under the root of anger and disappointment is hurt. So in order for you to even become bitter about something, you have to be hurt by it first. And that's what I had to learn to embrace. Yeah, I got hurt. I did. I got hurt. And I find that when people become bitter, it's a coping mechanism to that hurt.
It numbs it.
Right? Exactly. It's an added layer, right? So instead of being taught, and this is something that I think is my life's purpose, instead of being taught how to walk through that hurt and how to handle that hurt and how to love yourself through that hurt, you throw stuff on top of it just to numb that hurt. And that's when you enter bitterness. You live in the land of victimhood, yes. Right? Bitterness is saying you did this to me and I can't get over it. But what you're really saying is I'm hurt by what happened.
Right. And then what also happens is like, because who really hurt you, you may not be able to you may not know how to articulate it. You may not be able to get to them or whatever. So what it does is the bitterness begins to spread. Right.
Exactly.
And now your sisters are paying for what your father did, or your relationship is paying for what your mother did. All of how do you, for those people that may be buried right now, buried against the layers, how would you tell them to be able to identify that they may even be dealing with it? They may not know. What are some signs that they could look at to possibly say, I might be dealing with an issue surrounding around bitterness?
Well, first of all, if you can't be vulnerable in any situation, that's sign number one. If you can't open yourself up to somebody, that is sign number one. You got some stuff you have buried.
Yeah. You know, like when I was like, there might be something going on, I couldn't feel anymore.
Yeah.
Couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Couldn't feel it. I couldn't even enjoy music. It just was like, okay. There was no feeling.
Nope. You push it all down. And here's the thing. It's a way. Might not be the best way, but it's a way. And you did that because that's the only way you could survive at that time. And so I don't even blame someone for doing. You can't say, why did you do that? No, I understand. You did that for your survival. And baby, you are still here. And I'm so proud of you for that. Now, maybe there are other ways. There are better ways.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's one way. If you start to get defensive anytime somebody says something to you, you always clapping back at somebody. That's another way. Also, a big way, I think, what was happening for me is my life was stagnant. It wasn't moving. It was not moving. And not only was it not moving, the same things, the same situations kept happening over and over again in different scenarios with different people, but each time they would get worse.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Because it's life trying to go, can you please come on and heal? Can you pay attention to this? And the more we don't pay attention, the worse it gets.
Girl, wait, girl. Okay, because one, you just read my entire life. Okay, like
mine too.
You just wow. So if your life is stagnant, if things are not moving, you are probably dealing with an issue of bitterness.
Yes.
Jesus. Yeah. I'm gonna be real transparent. Like, I was like feeling like, am I not good at what I dedicated my life to doing? Because I hadn't booked anything, right? I was seeing everybody thrive, and I'm like, what is going on? And then now what you've taught me is that it's a heart issue.
Yeah.
There's a heart issue. You got to deal with the issue of the heart.
Exactly.
What, girl? Let me tell you something.
Exactly.
We're supposed to be blessing everybody. I'm sitting here like, oh, Jesus.
That was my prayer, honestly, that I said, let it first bless me and Brittany, first and foremost.
Yeah,
first and foremost.
And it is. What was the turning point moment like for you? What was the moment where you were like, okay, something has to change?
I was in a relationship with who I considered to be my closest friend. Somehow we ended up together. Somehow. And I hurt him. I cheated on him. And he found out, and to see that devastation, I was like, okay, something. Because his hurt, I saw me. And I'm like, I keep hurting him because it's me, and that's how I'm hurting. I'm making him feel how I feel because I haven't dealt with my mess. And at that time, I was doing Miss HBCU. I was running for that, and I had to come up with a talent, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to dance for it because I'm not that great of a dancer. I was good enough to win Miss Born White, but not great enough to do it in a Miss HBCU pageant. So I am a writer, so I wrote something. And my advisor at the time was like, this is not good. This doesn't come from the heart. I don't know what you're trying to. He was like, if you want to be in this pageant, you have to open up. And the only thing I could think about opening up on was the very thing I was afraid of. And then that, with the relationship drama I was going through, I was like, this is the only thing I know how to talk about, or I can talk about. And so my talent for Miss HBCU was me admitting for the first time out loud on stage to people I did not even know, other than my mother, that my father molested me. And that was a turning point.
How did your mom take that moment? How did she react?
She just apologized over and over and over again. And this was a part of my healing process that I wanted to talk about. How do you forgive someone? For her, the way that I want to break down my forgiveness process. Hopefully it helps someone out there. Yes. You know what I mean? But before I get into that, the way that I forgave her was by understanding her story. A lot of times when we have our parents and we say, my parent did this, my parent did that, parents aren't going to be perfect. When your parent is a human nature means that you are not perfect. As soon as you come into this world, you are not perfect, right? But who you are at your core is, but not being human, right? Mm-hmm. Human, you're going to go through some trauma. And I had to understand that about my mother. We don't give our parents the credit for what they've gone through, because they've gone through things too. So the minute I opened myself up to her trauma and her stories and how she got to be where she was to allow that man into her life, I was like, wow, I forgive you, Mom, because she was carrying so much guilt, and it wasn't her fault. There was nothing that she could have done. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she apologized. She apologized a lot.
In that moment when you told your mom that you forgive her, did you see anything come off of her?
Oh yeah, you could feel it. You could feel it. It was like a weight lifted off of her, but it wasn't all the weight, because as humans, we're our own worst enemies. So she had to let go of that guilt herself. Knowing that I wasn't holding her to that allowed her, I think, to do that. Yeah. But it didn't take off all the guilt, because she had her own. She was putting on herself.
Yeah, you talked a lot about what your forgiveness process, or you briefly touched on it. Talk us through that process.
Yeah, okay. So what I will say about bitterness, we talked about it being like a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. And it's basically, it comes from a lack of surrender to what has happened to you. You think that your life should have gone one way and it didn't. It's gone this way. And because you were expecting something else and life didn't give you that, you like, hold up. Hold up, what's going on here? Now I'm hurt because life didn't go this way. So you're refusing to surrender to what actually is. So now you're bitter about it, right? So I think the first step in healing is accepting what actually happened to you. You have to accept it. All right.
Can you unpack that a little bit? Because I'm in a spot where I'm like, okay, I can accept it, and for me, what I believe that means is acknowledging it. But how do I actually just accept it? Like, what does that really mean? Unpack that a little bit for us.
It means, okay, because acknowledging and accepting are two different things.
Yeah.
Right? When you acknowledge somebody on the street, you're like, hey, what's up? But when you accept something, when you receive something, you allow it in. You stand in the middle of it, not shielding yourself from the ugly parts of it, not only choosing to take little bits of what you want. You look at the entire picture, you stand in the middle of it and say, okay, all of this I receive, even the ugliest parts. So you have to be able to face all of it. That's the only way you can accept something. You gotta stand in it.
Wow, you gotta stand in it.
You have to stand in it without a shield.
Girl, you have to stand in it without a shield. You can't be protecting yourself while you do it.
No, you cannot.
Okay. So now we're standing in it. We're not protecting ourselves. What do we do next?
Right. Okay. And so because we're not running anymore, because we ain't blocking out what happened, because you have accepted it, now the door is open for you to, like, it's cracked open a little bit, right? So now we want to open the door. Now we want to stand in what happened and allow ourselves to feel everything that we felt, we feel now, whatever, because of the situation, right? So now we've accepted it. Now we're able to look at the movie of our life or of that situation and allow it to make us feel everything we have ever pushed down. You have to allow yourself to feel every single emotion you have ever pushed down, everything that you have ever ran or blocked yourself from. This is the purging stage. Right? Because what happens in life, and the reason why we become bitter, and the reason why people never get over their hurt and stuff, you know that saying, they say time heals all wounds. That ain't true. Time heals all wounds if you help it. All right? So, hello.
Time heals all wounds if you help it.
You gotta help it. You gotta help it. Because sometimes if you don't, time will only make it worse. Because what you're doing, and this is something that I really want to teach just humans in general, everybody's going to go through trauma. Jesus went through trauma. So don't sit here and act like something traumatic isn't going to happen to you. It's what do you do with that trauma when it happens? Two things happen. There's a mental aspect of trauma and there's a physical aspect of trauma. Right? The physical is those emotions that come up. And most of the time when we're in a traumatic situation, we push them down. And so they stay in your body. They're still in your body. And you get people, when we talk about people having diseases and you got a crick in your neck, that's stagnant energy that you have not moved through. Right? That is those emotions you bottled up from that situation way back when, you have not allowed to release from your body. So when you accept what you're going through and you allow yourself to look at it and you allow yourself to feel, you allow those emotions to come out of you in whatever way they need to. Cry, scream, punch a pillow, dance, write it out. But whatever you got to do to move those emotions out of your body, you have to do it and allow yourself to feel it, because that's the reason why you're still feeling the way you do, because you repress those emotions. So you have to allow yourself and give yourself the space to let them leave. However long that's going to take. You know what I mean? For me, it took a couple years because, I suppressed it for a couple of years. Yeah. So you have to give yourself patience.
You know why I love what you just said? Because, and I'll be very transparent, I was watching you go through your healing journey. I was watching our other Spelman sister Zuri go through her healing journey, and I wanted mine just like that.
Yeah.
Now, and I knew that it was. I know that it's a journey that you two have been on.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, is there a shortcut? Is there a way that I could just kind of like go around this baby, not really having to? So, what you said is so delicious. It didn't get there overnight. It's not going to go away overnight.
Exactly.
How do you love? So, as you're going through that and you're feeling all of these things, how do you love yourself through it?
Acceptance.
It all comes back to acceptance.
It all comes back to acceptance, and it always will. Like I said, we have to stop holding ourselves to this degree of, oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because we feel like we're God's children. We're not supposed to be feeling sadness or fear, or when we do, we're like, oh, this is not of God. This is low. This is, you know what I mean? And you like cut yourself off from that part of you. No, that is a part of you. There is a part of me that has hurt quite a few people. I can either shun that or I can accept it as a part of my journey. Because the walk with God, in order to not just know that you are God, to understand it, you have to understand what God isn't. You have to go through that stage. And it's uncomfortable. It really, really is, but you have to accept it because it got you to understanding who you are. Had you not have gone through that, you would not be understanding who you are now and who you have always been. So you take off the, I'm not supposed to feel this, I'm not supposed to feel that. Take that off. Feel what you feel. Give yourself the space to. Stop policing yourself. Don't do that.
Ooh, stop policing yourself.
Stop policing yourself. Because what you're doing is what everybody else did to you when you were a child. Is that really who you are?
Wow.
So you have allowed the voices of the world to dictate for you who you should be, how you should feel, and what you should do. And that is the definition of slave.
Wow. And it's okay. I wanna go through the rest of the forgiveness process, but not before we talk about, because you said, you talked about how you hurt a lot of people. And I have too. I shut a lot of people out. I would cuss you. You saw my worst days. I was not a very nice person, and I'm still working through that. How did you release the shame?
How did I release the shame? How did I release the guilt? Some people I hurt, I talked to about it, and I told them where I was. Not that it's an excuse or anything, but I felt as though they needed to know, right? And it wasn't about them forgiving me. It wasn't about any of that, because it wasn't for external reasons. I just needed to look them, aka me, because they are me. I was hurt, and be able to say I'm sorry. And the more I did that to other people, the more I could face myself and tell myself I'm sorry. I got rid of that shame by telling myself it wasn't my fault. The original trauma that I went through was not my fault. And the more I took the blame off of myself for that, I was then able to see how that original trauma trickled down into my entire life. I was like, oh, this is all related. This is all connected. This is all connected into this one thing. And because I was never taught how to deal with it, I had to figure it out myself. We have to figure out all these things ourselves. There's no roadmap. You're going to make mistakes, but are they really mistakes, or are they just lessons? It's about the perception. You have to switch your perception. Instead of saying, I am ashamed that I did this, say, I'm grateful that I did this because it taught me something.
Oh, wow. Now that is perspective.
I am grateful that I did this because it taught me something about myself.
Mm.
And that opened the floodgates up. That's when I started feeling again.
Mm.
You know.
Wow. Okay. Wow. You're freeing me in this conversation in so many ways.
Good.
So on our journey to forgiveness, we've accepted, we've purged. Now what do we do?
Now we have to talk to our inner child. Right?
Uh-oh.
Now we gotta talk to our inner child, because here's the thing: our inner child never goes away, and our inner child is as pure, as close to the purity as we are, as close to the purity that we come from as we can get. Right? That inner child, because they come directly from. Right? So we need to talk to our inner child, and most people don't realize that their inner child is still with them because they have pushed it down. So anytime you see adults act out, anytime you see adults triggered, you instantly see them go back to their inner child. That's why you see adults throw temper tantrums, saying, you're like, why are you acting like that? Their inner child comes out, right? So we need to speak to the direct part of our inner child that was hurt by that trauma, right? And we need to let her know, him know, that they have every right to feel what they are feeling. Because what we did initially during the trauma and how we suppressed our inner child was by saying, I don't want to feel that right now, so go away. Go away. We told our inner child to go away, right? So we need to rekindle that relationship first by saying what you went through, what you're feeling, you have every right to feel. And whatever you need to say to me, say it. If you need to curse me out, if you need to throw temper tantrums, what I did, I literally sat my inner child down in a seat right next to me, and I would hop from seat to seat. I would step into my adult self, and then when I switched seats, I would step into my inner child, and I would let her curse me out because that's what she was feeling. I would allow her to do that. But most importantly, I think the most important part of this stage is just to listen. It's not your job to say anything. It's your job to show up for your inner child the way you wanted somebody to show up for you when you were that age. You have to do that for you because nobody else is going to do it.
Wow. So it's basically about parenting yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So the minute I love the way you put that, the minute you parent yourself the way you wanted to be parented, you reconnect with your inner child, and now you're ready for the next step. And that next step, I like to call it compassionate role reversal. So what you're going to do with your inner child, because here's the thing about the inner child. Once you reconnect yourself to your inner child, once they feel safe again, once they feel loved again, they will be free like they once were. Our children, I love children for this very reason, because they know love. They are love. They are untainted love before the world puts all their crap on them. You know what I mean? Right. They are untainted love. So if you can reconnect yourself to your inner child, you can reconnect yourself to love. Do you really are? And because you have that, go ahead. Did you?
No, you just blessed me. I'm here. I'm in it.
Okay. So now that you have reconnected yourself to love for yourself through your inner child, you can now do compassionate role reversal. And this is about stepping outside of yourself. Like I said, with what I said with my mom earlier, stepping outside of yourself and understanding your tormentor's story. Trying to step into their shoes. Trying to understand what they went through to get where they are now. And you can only do that because you understand that you became who you did not like because of trauma that you went through. But because you have connected with your inner child, you know that's not who you really are. You became that because of your trauma. And if you can apply that to yourself, you can apply that to everybody else. Right?
You're preaching. Oh, for those that are on the podcast, I wish you were watching the video because I'm over here having a fit. You are preaching.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Because when you first said it, I was like, I instantly felt something in me go, can't do that.
Don't want to do it, of course.
Can't do that. I ain't gonna do that. Right, but it's because it's easier for them to be the villain, you know.
That's right.
You know, it's easy.
That's living in victim land, right? You want to blame somebody. But here's the thing, you only want to blame somebody because you want to place your emotions somewhere instead of dealing with them. When you are ready to deal with your emotions, you stop blaming people. You accept the emotions that they are there. You don't really look at where they came from, who did them to you. You figure out how to move out of those emotions. You don't care where they came from. You don't. You just want to get free of them. Right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so you are now in a place where you can do compassionate role reversal. So, whatever it is that you know about the person that did that very thing to you, like for instance, I'll get personal with my dad. I wrote his biography. I wrote out his biography, what I knew about him, what I knew about his mother, what I knew about where he came from. And I realized that his mother molested him.
Wow.
His mother molested him. And it made so much sense when I put all the pieces together because my heart was open enough to do that. It made so much sense as to why he would then continue down that path. And once it made my heart break for him, which is huge. It's huge, right? Because here I am. I was molested by my father for over 10 years, and I have compassion for him. But that's how you know you are healing, because that is closer to who I actually am, right? I can love him despite what he has, quote unquote, done to me.
Wow. So
write their biography out. Because in order to forgive someone, you have to understand or be open to understanding what they went through to make them like that. Because you know that's not who they really are.
Right. And because they're on a journey just like we're on a journey.
Exactly.
It's so funny you said that because I recently had an experience with I was sitting here and I was thinking about my mom, and they're up into, because you know I'm in grad school right now.
Yes, so proud of you.
Thank you. Up until this experience, I don't think I had ever. I would say that my mom had been a crackhead, but I never. I would say it. It wasn't. I haven't cried over it since I was 9 years old. And I sat here and I was like, no, I'm hurt by this. I'm hurt by this. Oh, it was after a Red Table Talk. Jada Pinkett Smith had brought on her brother. And they talked about how, they talked about how in order to forgive their dad, they had to realize that their dad was on a human journey just like them.
That's right.
And it was the first time that I ever was like, wait, my mom is a human.
Right.
My mom has had similar trauma as you, and dealing with abuse at the hand of her father, and my mom hasn't healed, and my mom has carried this all her life, and so, but I was mad at her.
Yeah.
Let me be transparent and real. I am mad at her, and so just hearing you say that again is just a reminder that I got some forgiving to do.
Absolutely, Brittany. But what I also want to tell you is it's okay to be mad at her. It is okay, because as a mother, she is someone who is, I'm going to say supposed to. I don't like that word, but as a mother, we think that our parents are supposed to protect us, are supposed to shield us from the darkness of the world. And here she is, she brought it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay. It is okay to be mad at her, but move through that so that you can see the other side of it, so that you can see why she is the way that she is. But first you have to honor what you feel, because your inner child was affected by her trauma. And that's what happens. That's why it's so crucial to heal as much as you can before you start having children, because whatever you don't heal, you pass down to your children.
Right on down.
That's right.
Yeah. And I used to always think that breaking generational curses meant let me get some wealth. Let me do this, right? But it's much deeper than anything materialistic.
It is, absolutely. And to me, true wealth is peace.
Girl. Ain't nothing like
true wealth is inner peace. You know what I mean? So it's okay. You're at the accept what you feel stage. Mm-hmm. You're at the purging stage. Purge your anger and know that it's okay. Mm-hmm. But move it through your body. And this is one of the reasons why I'm a fan of therapy, but at the same time, talking without moving your body isn't marrying, because essentially your body went through the trauma with you. So your body has to be a part of the healing process. Mm-hmm. So we could talk all day about what I went through and this and this and that, but if I don't move that energy out of my body, I'm only halfway healed. You know what I mean? So make sure when you move through, you move your body with you. You express anger how anger wants to be expressed. And you were acting, you in grad school. You know what I mean? You're in your, use it. Get it out. Then you can move on. You'll know when you're ready to move on. Yeah. You'll know.
Ooh, okay. Girl, okay, yes, okay. So, yes. Mm-hmm. Now we're at the compassionate role reversal stage, and we're writing biographies. Is there another part?
Yeah, so last step, right? Last step. Now,
I'm going to play this video over and over and over. Like, what part am I on?
Yes, good. But yes, that's I did this, and here's the thing: you can do these out of order. You follow your own intuition as to what stage you need to be at, right? Because for some, the inner child step might be before the whatever, right? And just because you finished the last step don't mean you need to go back to the first one. So it is a continuous process. And what you'll find when you heal is that there are so many layers to healing. Because first I had to forgive my father for actually molesting me. Then I had to forgive my father for abandoning me. Then I had to forget an X, Y, and Z. And it is continuous, right? So the more that you can be okay with having to heal from something, the more open you'll be to going on this journey again and again and again and again, because essentially you're freeing yourself up to be your God self. And if you can keep that in mind, I won't say it's a fun journey, because healing is ugly and there's beautiful parts of it, but there's some ugliness to it. It's freeing. It's so freeing. So if you can keep your vision of who you really are in mind, and I think that's something that people should do before they even start this healing process, right? Before you even get to the acceptance stage, I want you to ask yourself, who would I be if this did not happen to me?
Wow.
What would that look like? Who would I be? Your answer to that is who you really are. So whenever you get discouraged from this healing process, go back to that list, read that out loud, and that'll encourage you to continue going. You know?
Yes. So compassionate role
right.
reversal.
So we have compassionate role reversal. And then the last step is going to be to rewrite the story as your adult self. Okay? Because you've been telling yourself this story as a child, as it happened to you. But now you have a greater understanding of it as an adult. And you also have the other side of the story, right? The tormentor story, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. You also have their side of the story. But as children, like I said, we've been telling this story for years to ourselves as we experienced it. But the thing with children is, children want love, and they're willing to accept that love from however they can get it, right? And the unfortunate thing that society has to learn is, when we are children, we accept any type of love that we can get. Conditional love is what I like to call it, right? It's, if you do this for me, I'll love you. If you don't do this, I'm not going to like you anymore. So as children, we mold our bodies into what the other person needs to be, or needs us to be, in order to get that love, right? So by rewriting this story as an adult, you're telling the story free of blame on anyone. Because what happens, like I said, as children, when we hurt someone, when we anger someone, we don't get their love, and we think it's our fault. We don't think that it's because of something they're going through, right? It's our fault. And so you've been telling yourself that this is your fault. It's something you did for years. You are uncovering that lie, rooting it out, and completely rewriting the story. Free of blame on you and free of blame on the other person, because now you understand what they've been through. And now that you are free of blame and you're not blaming yourself for someone's own mental sickness, you're literally just looking at the facts of what happened. These are the facts. And once you can get to a place of these are the facts, it stops eventually. It stops affecting you so much. This is why I can sit here and talk about the fact that I was molested by my father, because I know the facts of it. I know first and foremost, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't anything I did. I am a perfect child. I was a perfect child. It was nothing that I did. And it was not, I'm going to walk a tight line with this, because I don't want to say it wasn't his fault, because as adults, we all are then responsible for what was handed to us as children. And you can either continue the trauma or you can heal from it and choose a different route. So I will say, I do hold him responsible, but I can't blame him. I can't blame him. And by me understanding what he went through and by me rewriting this story, my anger is not on him. My anger, I'm no longer a victim. Now I have overcome what I have gone through. You know what I mean? Because I can sit here and look at the facts. Here they are. This is what he went through. And now I've forgiven him. I am free of blaming him. I am free of blaming myself. And now I can use this to help someone else. I went through this so I can help somebody else.
And you are helping us.
Okay. Thank you.
This has been more than I could have ever asked for. Another thing I really love about you is that, yes, you are an artist. You are an artist, right? You are an artist and you are an activist. Please show us your shirt. And for us that are listening on the podcast, please tell us what it says.
Yes, my shirt says "Free all cannabis," in quotations, convicts. Right? Today is 420. Happy 420 for those who celebrate. Hey! I'm about to go celebrate right now.
I know that's right.
But I just think also we need to keep in mind what this day really is about and where 420 actually came from. You know, code 420, right? That is a police code that you use when someone is, you know, in possession of marijuana. And there are plenty of our melanated brothers and sisters, even non-melanated brothers and sisters, because they are brothers and sisters too. There are a plethora of them still sitting in jail, in prison, serving I don't know how many years of a sentence for something that we are celebrating today. So I don't like to lose light of that. And I want to shed light on that. Today is more than just a celebration. And I'm here in California. Girl,
Hey.
I went to the dispensary, didn't need a weed license or anything. They just needed my driver's license. And I was able to purchase weed legally. But there are still people locked up,
In California.
In California.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so.
Thank you so much for the work that you do. This has been, I wish I could release this first because this has been such an amazing, enlightening, healing conversation. Please tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram. It's actually the only social media account that I really operate like that. But so you can find me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is Futures Jasmine. Future, put S on it, Jasmine, Jasmine. You can also watch me on the second season of Sweet Bitter is coming out soon, I believe in June. And then if you've ever watched the movie Heathers, we redid that, turned it into a TV show, and you can find that on Paramount Network's channel.
Yay! Thank you so and you will know that you got the right Jasmine because she is blue check verified.
Hey!
So turn up on that. Thank you so much. This has been more than I could have ever asked for. Thank you for your generosity and your vulnerability.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I love you. I'm so proud
you gotta come back.
I would love to. Let's do it.
Yes. Go celebrate for me.
Hey, I will.
All righty, sis.
All right.
I told you that it was gonna bless you. Like, I found myself getting so choked up during that interview. And I thought that I was in a good place in my healing journey. And through talking to her, I was like, uh-oh. And it came at the part where she was talking us through the steps to forgiveness. And I want to know, when is her book coming out, by the way? I meant to ask her that. But she was talking about the step of forgiveness, and she talked about being compassionate towards the person that you're harboring unforgiveness with. And I said it in the interview, but I immediately felt myself go, I ain't doing that part. No. And that taught me I got some work to do. I got to go back and I got to look at some things. I got to address some things. There's so much that interview taught me, but the biggest thing I got was my little girl is in there. And she really want to talk, and she really needs to get it out, and I really need to let her and move forward. I'm sorry, I'm crying. move through it, and also not carry the shame with me, and that's going to mean that I have to accept that I hurt somebody. I have to accept that I wasn't nice. I wasn't, y'all. I can be mean. As nice and bubbly as curvy confidence makes me appear, don't let that yellow background fool you. I can be mean. And I have to acknowledge that I've been very mean. I've been a bully. I've done some stuff, and I can't carry shame with that. I have to move through and process that. And I just pray that interview helped you as much as it helped me. And I want to do something a little different. If it helped you like it helped me, just shoot me a message so that I can share it with Jasmine, because she's a light that we need and that we appreciate. Okay, y'all know how we end this out. We end this out with an affirmation and also with 3 deep breaths. This week, my affirmation is It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. And let's part with each other with 3 deep breaths. Thank you, family. Thank you for being so supportive and so loving. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week. Ow!